Okay, so we're ready to continue Hilchos Basar B'Cholov Siman Sadik Dalet. We'll do a quick review of some points that perhaps were left out, then go on to at least the beginning of Sif Hey. There are situations where someone may mix a utensil that is an Eino Ben Yoima with an Eino Ben Yoima, with a Ben Yoima with an Eino Ben Yoima. And we know that something that is an Eino Ben Yoima, any blias that it has are pogom. And because the blias in it are pogom, if we insert it into something that should not be inserted to, it won't be much of a concern because the blias, whatever blias it has, are pogom anyway. And therefore, the food will be okay, and the pot will be okay. That where the spoon that is an Eino Ben Yoima, let's say a dairy spoon, was inserted to. However, the spoon, even though it was an Eino Ben Yoima, is still lechatchila, at least asur, to be used now with either of the two. And the reason for that is because it has blias of the two. Very simple. So that's important to know that we are machmir. In other words, in a sense, even though it's true that the spoon is not affected, if you want to call it that, just like it does not affect the food, it does not affect the pot, it in itself is not affected. It's not that it has basar b'cholov, which is now asur b'hanol, like in our first case, in Siv Gimel, when it's Ben Yoima. Exactly. Still, as the Mechaber says, Im ein akav Ben Yoima, akter v'tav shemutov, akaf also lechatchila beni v'asur beni v'cholov. However, mikol mokum b'di'evet, if you did put it in,
well, it depends what you put in what time.
And that's what we'll talk a little bit about, elaborate a little bit more about.
But it's asur with both is
Lechatchila, yeah.
It's for different reasons.
Yeah.
It's asur with milk because it was fish, if it's ben yomo. Now fleish you crush it.
Right.
And it's asur the fleish with milk atu. Because of
Right.
atu. That's the lechatchila. You're not allowed to use something with
Right.
the opposite
Right.
type of.
Lechatchila.
For two different reasons.
Right.
The gabe, the lechatchila.
Yes, that's
the
true.
atu.
Yeah.
Gabe the meat because if it's a
Yes.
ben yomo.
Yeah, that's exactly how they explain it, yeah. In other words, that even though the Mechaber says this, but it's not clear what he's talking about, so this is exactly what you said. No, so getting, since you already mentioned that, that's what's been in the Poiskim, and okay, I'll get to it in a moment. Let's do it according to the order. No, but that's exactly it. Okay, but anyway, that's the story with the kaf Eino Ben Yoima, that it could sometimes be an Eino Ben Yoima. Nonetheless, it in itself will be asur. You have to put it aside. You have to make a gola to it. You can't use it lechatchila with any of the two. What if you did? It all depends. Like as Ilan pointed out, what did you end up using it with? And was it mitoch le'es le'es of the time that you use it with? Okay, but before we go on, you did raise a question in the past about Sif Beis. And Sif Beis, we were, even though we're going back a little bit, just a real quick nekuda here, he'ora, comment. In Sif Beis, we did speak about the idea of putting the spoon twice,
Right.
which was a little bit unusual as to what is the requirements. Since it's twice, we're choishes, a little bit is left behind. The problem is that there's some blias now with basar and chalav that was perhaps still there. So the question was, in the same way that we are metzaref, after all, we are metzaref now, the basar and the chalav, we do need enough contents in that pot keneged what's in the spoon, potentially what may be there. Why don't we say, why don't we introduce an idea that was introduced in Hilchos Taaruvot, that isurin mevatlin zeh.
Right.
In other words, if you can say that basar and chalav combine, well, I have another way of combining them. Cancel each other out, like in math. I think algebra, basically. They cancel each other out. And that's really what's behind isurin mevatlin zeh, and that is always a possibility. When is that a possibility? When their time is different. When they're really different. Because even though they may be different in Surah, but if the time is the same, then that's a different.
Right, because then the one amplifies.
Yeah. So when the time in Basar and Chalav are different timing, so I saw the Pri Megadim, at least he's one. There may be others who bring it, but at least I am picking on him. Okay. He's the one that was closest that I could find to just bring it up. And he basically brings up this question that you could easily taina. You can claim, Isurim should be vatal zeh. And the basar, the time of the basar and the chalav are not shavim, as he says, they're not equal, they're not the same. So you should. Why don't you say that as much as you say the other one? Very good point. And each one should be mesayeh to be mevatel the other ones. Basically, what we said in Hilchos Taaruvot. So the Pri Megadim just says very briefly that Kivan, he says, since basar b'chalav is a unique isur m'shem echad. That's all. He says it's a good question But because Basar B'Cholov is a unique Isur Mishem Echad, that it's a combination of the two that forms this unique Isur that has the same name. And here there's a key here, the same name. And if you recall, the same name sometimes is also an issue. Different flavors, but same name.
Right.
You know?
But you brought the Aruch HaShulchan there who said the same name when labor.
Yes, that was Aruch HaShulchan, yeah. But here he wants to be Machmir. He says here, even all it is the same name. In other words, it creates a new Isser, and it's all one name, so that would be sufficient for us to be Machmir here, and not allow Isurim Mevatlin says.
I saw that Badiah Shulchan brings the same Prima Gadim.
Oh, really?
And he goes a little deep also.
As he usually does.
Shabbos.
Yeah. Good.
And he says...
You understood the idea, a very interesting idea, yeah.
He says, the Oraisa, when he makes no distinction, the Oraisa, the Oraisa, you don't even need the case of the Basar because the Hanan, the second time around,
that's right.
You wouldn't need 60. You only need a majority because the Bemina case of the Basar is exactly the same case of the Basar.
Yeah.
But the Rabbanan, because of the same idea, because of the different, because of the same name, even though it has a different taste, he says the Rabbanan. It's a Rabbanan Dikadim.
It's a Rabbanan Dikadim, right?
Which is very important. That it's changed.
Sure, very good.
Because it's situations where, let's say,
there's a suffix.
For instance, there's a suffix,
right?
Or where
sort of suffix,
or where you would use the fact that it fell a second time, or you have a second time, if you use it now to be mevatel the Oraisa, the Rabbanan. Let's say you had a situation, because it was stuck in a second time. Now the Gabi is a Oraisa. You want to say it's already in Isser Halal Isser.
Oh, okay.
So since it's a Rabbanan, you wouldn't be able to say that on Isser Oraisa, since an Isser Oraisa cannot extend something from a subsequent to a certain Isser Rabbanan cannot extend something from a subsequent to the Doraisa.
Yes.
So with the Doraisa, it's still a problem.
Yeah.
There is a famous example right now.
Yeah. Right. Okay, very good. But anyway, this is going more in depth, and some of us sometimes have the time to do that.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Because Rabbi Nissen Kaplan was called it.
Oh, good.
So they call it.
On what?
He was in Yore Deah.
Very good.
He was speaking question of why breach in the temple.
Oh, okay. Yore Deah, yeah. Okay, now, so going back to what we were saying before, that the kaf is also to be used with basar or with challah because it has blias of the two. It cannot be either of the two. And we said that the Mechaber says that b'di'evet, if you stuck it in, it doesn't answer. So the Shach brings the Beis Yosef. What we say that it doesn't answer is dafka when you stuck it in to the same min that you stuck it in the beginning, the first time around, which was the basar, and you stuck it in the basar again, right? But if you went ahead and inserted it into the first blias that it ever had, which is milk, within the me'es la'es of the recent basar, then of course it would answer it. So that's basically what you said. So that's mevur in the Beis Yosef a little bit more. But inserting it in vegetables is not going to be a problem. For example, right? You do making mashed potatoes, and you went ahead and used this spoon that has blias of both. One of them being in a binyom, it's not going to be a problem. You can have your mashed potatoes. Another point before we go into Sifhei, which is important to also have some clarity about, is this me'es la'es. Now, we spoke about me'es la'es, machloikis, whether one night is enough. Okay, that was a separate thing. Otherwise, nois and tam of gam occurs, as far as we know, after 24 hours. It's before the place, in the tour amongst them brings it down, that technically you have a situation where a Melicha kapat or a fleisha kapat, you went ahead and cooked water in it within 24 hours. That water, the boiling water, does not resuscitate or rejuvenate the milk taste to generate now a status of ben yoim again. I haven't used it for milk for 24 hours, even though I used within the last couple hours, I used it with hot water. That hot water does not make it anymore a ben yoim. That's important to know. Melicha kapat or a fleisha kapat.
There are certain that would.
Okay.
That's called machayir l'shvach. But generally speaking,
no. Where is it? Where is an example of cooking water making a difference? Isur, a real isur, either a basar b'cholov isur, it's already a basar b'cholov combination, or an nevela trefer, right? That it's an isur. What does that isur do when you boil water, except for the smak, which we covered before? When you cook water in that pot within 24 hours of the isur, then that isur goes into the water and makes the water chanan. And that chanan water goes back into the pot, and it's like a benyoimo. So Mechaber, when he, I think the Mechaber, or in Beis Yosef actually, the Beis Yosef, when he brings down the smak as being the one, I think the only shita that holds that even with nevelis and trefas, water does not, lo ma'aleh velo morid, as we say in Hebrew, it does not make any change, any difference. He's the only one, I think. The only shita that says, and we actually rely on him sometimes as a tziruf. Smak says you can do whatever you want to it with water, and if you don't have your 24 hours from the original Isser, then it's usher. If you do have it even if you did water as much as you want, the water is not going to do anything to it. So he's one of the only ones that I remember. Now, so Beis Yosef, in explaining this whole sugya, says, even though the smak has a point, or whatever it is, we're going to make a chiluk. Isurim will go along with him. Isurim, we're not going to go along with him. Isurim, we're going to say that if you boiled it, it's going to make the water chanan. The chanan is going to go back into the pot. That pot is now benyoima again. But with basar or chalav, when they are heter, basar by itself, or chalav by itself, or milchik pot, by itself, you cook water in that pot within 24 hours of the last time you used it for milk, you're not doing anything to that chalav to make it again a benyoima. So Beis Yosef says, we will go along with that idea of the smak when it comes to basar and chalav when they are heter. In other words, either basar by itself or chalav. Lekula, that the water did not do anything to that basar. That water did not become fleishika water.
Yeah.
That milk, that did not, the milchika pot did not become a milichika pot. That tam of basar, tam of chalav that went into the water, it is like as no tam. Right. So the Beis Yosef adds his own reasoning, or I don't know if it's his own, I don't remember, or if it's everybody else agreeing too. The reason why we're mekel, like the smak, or like others who hold the same, like Abe Basar and Chalav, is because in reality, lemaisa, it's a nat bar nat, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit today. Okay, and I'm going to get into nat bar nat, what a nat bar nat is.
Yeah. Would he hold like the smak, the gab of the water becoming hanan? I thought the mechaber hold is no hanan b'shar.
Right, so what's pshat? Very good. So what's pshat in the smak? Pshat in the smak, they say... No, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
What's the svara of why there shouldn't be? What's the svara that there should be, besides the not by not? What's the svara that there shouldn't be, not why it should be also? Because that's a separate question. We don't go along with the smak. It says you're right, it doesn't hold chanan b'shar surim anyway. Yeah. But he's not necessarily going along with him, but it's only in svara. He says the difference, he says, let's make at least a pshara that here yes and here no.
So by Hanan Bashar, it does not like this.
In other words, we're not going to allow not bar not beisura.
No, not
right?
Not, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so in other words, when the Beis Yosef explains that the ultimate reason really is really not bar not, even though I'm going to give another reason in a minute, what comes out of it is that we don't say not bar not beisura, which therefore explains the smak, another smak, that when we make hagala, treif keli, you're going to want to make a gala to it, you wait till it's not it's eino ben yoimo. Why? Do it right away. Because we don't want to be soymech or rely on not bar not beisur. See how it fits in?
There is no not bar not beisur.
Exactly.
What I had by Beis Yosef, not that the Beis Yosef holds that the Beis Yosef should hold
right.
That first of all there's no Hanan b'shar surah.
Right.
And therefore, the best that can happen is that the same Isser that was in the pot went into the water.
Right.
Now the walls of the pot are absorbing a mixture of water and Isser.
Yes.
And therefore, pro ratio.
There's some Isser.
There is some Isser, but
right.
not the whole walls.
Exactly.
Maybe depending
but there's some Isser.
Some
right.
Isser. Now, maybe a 60th or
whatever.
But it should not have been reduced. What went back into the walls should have the exact same status regarding Me'is Le'es as it had before the water went in. Because the fact that it went into the walls at this point in time doesn't make a taste that is any fresher than it would have been had it remained in the walls. The taste was delivered from the actual nevela at 10 a.m. Whether that taste now goes into the wall of the pot or goes into the water, the taste is a taste that is already at 12 p.m. 2 hours old.
Yeah.
And once 24 hours have passed since the 10 a.m., 24 hours will have passed with respect to that taste.
Yeah.
The fact that it traveled from the walls into the water and back into the walls should not make that taste any fresher, such that you would have to now measure 24 hours from 12 p.m. if it originally went into the walls at 10 a.m. Why would its transfer from the walls into the water and from the water back into the walls make it a fresh reset of the 24 hours?
It resets it. It obviously resets it. Because it's no longer, it's the only time we say pogum is when it sits in the walls of the keli, not when it's in liquid. It does rejuvenate. Once something comes out, you begin from scratch.
But it's an Isser Balua when it's...
Right. And by Isser, we're machmir even in a little bit.
Didn't we say that the Bach even holds by Basar B'chalav if the milk has already expired, the 24 hours, and the meat is still fresh, the milk in the meat will not be able to usher some other meat in the pot. Because
that's the Bach. That's something else.
Right, but you see that by Isser Balua, that's even by Basar B'chalav.
Right.
But if it's not Basar B'chalav, but it's regular Isser, wouldn't everyone hold like that?
No, not really. We actually see that there's a question about it. Does it rejuvenate the tam? And they said by Basar or Chalav separately, it's heter. We're not makbid because ultimately it's a not barnat anyway. But the smak doesn't agree with not barnat b'Yisrael. So therefore, why does he allow it?
It's a different question.
Okay, so the answer is because ein anesa more chomer than the oyser.
Okay.
If the oyser is pogum, like you're saying now, then why should the nesa become more osir than the oyser?
Even though it was absorbed, it was still fresh.
Exactly. So that fits in. It fits a little bit into what you're saying. In other words, that's what the smak is saying. That's why I don't want to. He holds it does not become fresh again because of ein nesar, that which has become asur, the water, will not. Why should it be stricter than the one that originally gave the isur, which is in the wall, which is pogum right now? Right. So that's what the smak says, that even by Idnevela there's no problem of refreshing. Right. But we're more focused right now on not barnat anyway. Because it says the Gabi Bosa and
the not barnat would say that even while the taste is still fresh.
Yes.
Once it went into the water and back into
the food,
it's another matter, it won't usher.
That's correct.
Within the
even if it's fresh, right.
According to the smak, within the 24 hours, it will still usher.
Yeah.
Because notwithstanding the fact it's not or not, it's still a fresh taste.
That's true.
And it still needs to expire after 24 hours.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. So briefly, what's not barnat? Since Sif Hey really is an introduction to it, but most of the halachas concerning not barnat will be found in the next Siman, Sadik Hey. And what do you find? You find here, this is approximate. I'm not going to go into all the shitas and all the details, because we'll leave it for Sadik Hey. But just some ideas. The Gemara basically says what happens if you took a hot piece of fish that just came off the spit, the roast, whatever, and you put it into a Melicha kapat. I'm sorry, the Fleisha kapat, the Gemara's example. Olu. Dogim she'olu be'ke'ora. The fish was put into a ke'ora. This ke'ora, this pot, whatever it is melachik.
Is it on fire?
What?
Is it on fire?
No. The fish was hot, the ke'ora was not necessarily hot.
Uh-huh.
Okay? All right. And according to some, it was hot too, it doesn't make a difference. All right. Now the question is, can you eat this fish with melachiks? You'd like to...
So what happened again?
Okay, one more time. You took this fish, hot, roasted, barbecued fish, it's hot, and you put it into a fleisha kapat.
Fleisha kapat.
Right.
The last time you said milk, I was confused.
Right.
With milk.
Yeah. You put it into fleisha kapat, because that's the example, but it can work the other way around too. I mean, So now, we have a dilemma, we have a question. I want to have cream cheese, with lots, or whatever, I want to have milk with this fish. Can I or can I not? What's the problem? The problem is that there may be some blias of flesh, ben yoima we're talking about, of course, in this fish of basar. Blias, yeah. It was hot, very, very hot. Are we concerned about that? This is not a typical bishul, right? It's not a typical bishul where you cook this fish in a fleisha pot. It's heat. Right?
So there's no water?
Sli. Olu, the pashup shot in Olu is sli. Then there's another machlekes. Does that halacha also apply to bishul? Okay? For similar reasons. So we are introduced through this example to a concept called not barnat. And the halacha is you could eat it, Poshet. We're going to get into Sfardim and Ashkenazim later on. There's a little bit of a minhag difference here as to how to treat this fish. In what plate to eat it.
Oh, the Ramah is very...
The Ramah, but it's only a chumras. Me'ikar adin, we hold, there's a concept called nat bar nat, which means that here the taste, whatever fleshika taste is in the fish, is pretty much so diluted that it does not amount to a lot of tam. That's one pshat in nat bar nat. Whatever tam is there does not amount.
Just to understand the nat bar. No. Am I understanding?
Second generation flavor. That's what the words mean.
Am I understanding correctly? The fish, when it receives the meat, is not receiving some meat from a piece of meat itself.
That's correct.
It's receiving it from something that is itself already only a taste.
Exactly.
Its source of the taste. So that's the first nut.
The meat went into the pot, and from the pot it went into the fish.
The taste of the meat.
The taste of the meat. Yes.
So that's the first nut, not in tam.
Right.
And now the fish itself has a taste that it will be adding to the milk. And that second taste is already a nut in tam bar, nut in tam. Because the fish will be nut in tam to the milk. What's the problem that I have with the fish? That the milk will now have a taste of meat because of the fish.
Yeah, but remember, the nat bar nat is already in the fish.
So I don't...
Yes.
If it's water, yes. Without water...
That's a machlokes. Exactly.
No, the machlokes is with water, whether that's already nat bar nat or whether you need a third one.
That's the question. There's several machlokes. Do you need 3 or is 2 enough?
Right, but with the pot you don't have 2 ideas.
Yes, you do.
The taste went into the pot.
There's 1.
The taste went into the pot and is still in the pot. There's not a second one now.
The one that goes into the fish is the second one. The fish contains a nat bar nat.
Once that fish gives that taste over to the milk.
No. It doesn't even. You don't have to even the question right now.
Wait a second. But if I cook milk in that pot, I'm not allowed to eat that milk.
That's correct.
But you're telling me that the milk, that the taste that is absorbed by whatever is being cooked in the pot is already nat bar nat.
That's one of the questions in the sugi of nat bar nat. Why would a fish be considered nat bar nat, and not what I cook in this fleshike pot be considered nat bar nat? Good question.
So because the fish is considered nat bar nat legabe the milk and not legabe itself. That's why.
No.
The milk I can't cook in the pot.
You don't intend to cook right now milk with this, which is by the way not healthy. You intend to eat the two together.
With the unhealthy.
The tam of the fish, the basar tam is not traveling to the milk.
No, but I have the same tam in my mouth right now. Fish with milk.
Okay, yeah.
And even, by the way, I think the example, the eat is a different is a side point.
Yeah.
The ikr point is cooking that fish with. The ikr point is cooking. You still would say nat bar nat when you cook that fish with milk.
Well, obviously, but the
eating is derabanan even if I have a piece of.
And nachinami, right? But still, it's still a question. It's a valid question.
Nat bar nat is not a derabanan.
Yeah, but we're still concerned about that.
I'm just saying.
Can I eat it or not?
Yeah, but that's the final question.
Yeah.
The nat bar, it's not the essential question in nat bar nat. The essential question about bar nat is cooking the fish with the milk.
That too. The thing is that we don't cook fish with milk.
It's a separate issue.
Right.
That's a separate issue.
No,
that's a health issue, not a
right. It's a health issue, right?
I'm talking about your kashrus.
Right. No, I'm just saying.
With milk right
that's
now.
correct. Yeah. But anyway, it's not necessarily a problem only in cooking. It could be a problem even without cooking.
But that would be only the rabbinical problem because I can't even eat meat.
That's
with
correct.
milk.
That's correct. That's correct.
But the nat bar nat is something that permits a doraisa.
That's also true.
And that I only have if I cook.
That's true. That's true. Yes. Very true. Yeah. Only if I cook. So there's a question here. The question on the nat bar nat. You hear the question about the cooking because if we say the fish is second generation nat bar nat, the flavor therefore in the fish is a diluted form of flavor. It's not original. It's almost non-existent, Kimat.
What makes it
Then what makes a difference than just cooking? Why can't I cook right now meat or dairy directly in the spot? And the simple answer, without going too far, is because I cannot cook milk in direct contact with meat. The meat, as opposed to the tam of basar going into fish first. First.
And
by then, it's already a nat bar nat in the fish.
No.
Yes.
It will be a nat bar nat already in the milk.
No.
How about cooking a piece of meat in water in a milchik pot? A piece of meat
Yes.
in water
Right.
in a milchik pot.
That was the question that I just raised.
Is the meat? No. You were talking about milk in a fleshly pot.
Same thing.
The difference being the milk touches the pot directly.
And then?
Whereas the meat in water in a milking pot, the meat is touching the water and the pot.
Right. That's the question. That's the question.
Same
Same thing. But you're right. But it's the same question that's raised. Why can I not? Because technically, it should be not bar not.
Technically, the taste is going from
into the water.
pot
Into the water.
Into the water.
Your example, that's correct.
And from the water in the meat.
That's correct.
So once it arrives in the meat, it's a nut bar nut.
But you will see.
One thing, is that correct?
But you will see when you learn the sugya that in the case of meat in the water is meat.
No, that's why you're not allowing.
That's why you're not allowing
but
it.
But the question arises because the taste will go from the walls of the pot into the water.
That's correct.
So I don't have a problem.
Of course, why shouldn't it be that bar not?
Then
right.
The taste of the milk will go from the water into the meat.
That's correct. Yeah.
That's why once it arrives in the meat, I should call it nut bar nut.
That's the question.
So what you're saying is, no. Once the taste arrives in the water, it's already basar b'chalav.
Yes.
It doesn't take for it to go from the water into the meat to become basar b'chalav. It's already basar b'chalav when it goes into the water, and once it goes in the water, it's not nut bar nut yet. It won't be nut bar nut until it goes from the water into the meat.
It won't even then become nut bar nut.
So if you're cooking, then once it goes into the meat, it becomes nut bar nut, but it goes already basar b'chalav because it already went into the water.
When we come to that,
but wait a second. But so when you're roasting the fish in the pot, there is no water as an intermediate fish in the pot.
That's correct.
So then only once the fish itself is not a nut bar nut yet. Because it's like the water. It absorbed the taste directly from the pot, like the water did.
No. But what you're missing is, and that's why the sugi is not al regel achad on 1 foot. What's missing here is like this. There is an apparent difference between flavor coming out of a pot into food or liquid versus flavor coming from food to food. Okay? Flavor that's coming out of a pot into something else is that when it arrives. When it has arrived in the fish from the pot, it's already a nut bar nut.
So then, when it arrives in the water from the pot, it should be nut bar nut.
Right, that was the question.
No, but it's not because the whole point why it's asur is because the water is already called meat.
No. Yeah. We'll see. That is why there are some shittas rishonim who hold that in order for nut bar nut to be mutter, it has to be 3 nuts, not 2.
Right.
For that reason. Now, plus they say that what's mutter from the Gemara's example is olu beke'ora, not bishul. And here comes the explanation. Why is bishul any different than olu beke'ora, where it's roasted, where it's hot and it's absorbing tam? Okay, and here comes the answer to your question of fleishiks melichiks. Okay, this is the real answer because it concerns bishul. Why can't I cook milk or meat? Actually, let's use your example. Meat. Well, the example given by the poskim is actually milk in a fleishik pot. So let's use their example. Okay. Why can't I? It's not bar nut. So we said that it's absorbing directly, but that's not enough. So what do you mean absorbed directly? It's still going to be a nut bar nut. It's still coming out. So what's pshat? Huh? So what's pshat? Okay, no, I didn't give you the whole explanation. I'm going to give you the whole explanation. Because the explanation does not have to do with the method that it doesn't have to do with how it comes. In other words, that the fact that it comes from the pot, it has to do with bishul. Those poskim there are poskim who say that nat bar nat will not always work with bishul. Why? Because bishul has the koach. When you cook something, it has a different koach than olu beke'ora to take out the tam completely and entirely from the walls of the pot. It's not a second generation. What accomplished that? Bishul. So bishul does not make what as far as basar b'chalav at least does not weaken the taste. That's the further explanation given to why do we asar cooking basar in a milk pot or milk in a fleishik pot. If in the end it's not bar nat anyway.
I have a basis, at least in Shushan and Pirchas Shushan. It's not my confusion.
No, go ahead.
Maybe the Pirchas Shushan confused. They explain it like this. The full explanation of nut bar nut is brought in Siman.
Sure.
Now, this is how they explain it.
Go ahead. Go ahead quickly.
The basic definition is that when the taste of food is transferred from fruit to utensil, it's called one nut.
Okay.
When it is transferred from the utensil into food, it's called a second nut or a nut bar nut.
There you have it. That's it. By the time it's transferred back into something else, it's already a nut bar nut. Right. Right. So far what I've introduced is that there are differences out there between where the bli is coming out from, if it's coming from a pot or from food. We'll look into that later on. And cooking versus putting something hot into the pot, because the Gemara's example is not necessarily, according to all Shittas, talking about even cooking. It's just talking about a hot piece of fish absorbing. But had I cooked that fish in the fleshike pot, not necessarily would I be able to eat that fish with milk. Perhaps. According to some, cooking the fish in a fleshike pot or roasted hot fish in a fleshike pot will be equally the same. The tam coming out of the pot into the fish is not barnat.
The taste in the fish in the pot,
Yeah.
that taste is a nut barnat
Taste.
with respect to how it affects milk.
Okay, Basar. Yes, I agree.
Not with respect to the fish itself. Now, if the fish itself was milk, then that would usher it. Here it is. On the Mechaber in Siman 95, if fish was cooked in a benyo mikdera, it is mutter to eat the fish with milk lahatchila because nat barnat of meat cannot usher milk. Once the taste is called nat barnat, then it can no longer usher milk.
That's part of the machlokes, whether you need 3 or 2. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, but that's the part of the machlokes, whether you need 3 or 2. But let's not get too much into it, because we'll leave that for Siman Tzad again. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah, once we get into it, we'll go through all the shitas, and there's quite a few shitas, it's a big deal. And for the most part, there are several chumras, Fardim, Ashkenazim. Let's just real quickly just try to understand Sif Hey, now that we know more or less what nat barnat just is. Sif Hey reads like this. Mechaber says, in bishlo mayim bikdero, chadosha. You cooked water in a new pot. Betochvu bo kaf choleves. And you insert it into this new pot that was never used for anything, a milchike spoon. Then you went ahead and cooked in this pot, once again more water, and this second time around, so you inserted a fleshik spoon. And these 2 spoons, they were bnei yoimon. In neither of the 2 times, there was no 60. Alright, so now what's the problem? So the Mechaber says something very interesting.
The pot should be the
Yeah, the Mechaber says, you know what? Also, you should not use, and I inserted the word should not instead of and for a reason. Yeah, you should not. I'm not saying you can't. I added the word should not instead of you cannot for a reson. You'll see why.
Didn't he say asr?
Yeah. But I'm what's the word for it? I'm no, not only hinting. I'm qualifying that also lishtamish. I'm qualifying it. This is not your ordinary also lishtamish. You'll see why. Also lishtamish b'kdera lo basar v'lo cholov. You cannot use with kdera not meat or milk. Wow. Just because I put 1 spoon that was a milk, later on a fleshik spoon, yeah. The kdera is chadasha. They were both in the yoyman. Okay. So what can I not do with this pot? I cannot use it not for fleshik or for melachiks, unless I do a gol, of course. Avashak vori mutar. Anything else I want to cook in it, broccoli or whatever, mutar levashem me'achar. Why? Shahoy so chadasha. It was new. Shelo bishlu bo me'olam. So if you have a Shuchan Aruch in front of you, you will see one of the longest shachs. Yeah. What's going on over here? The shach says, I don't understand the Mechaber. Why are you so machmer? You of all people, the shach says, you're the one that proposes not barnat later on. You hold of not barnat.
And the Ramah is leaving.
The Ramah goes along with the Mechaber. Yeah. Except till a little later on. You read on to the Ramah a little bit later on. There are various other examples where he's machmer, but they're not major stuff. You're Mechaber, you're Mekel and not barnat. So what should the din be of this pot? Lemaisa, there's not barnat. This pot is not a fleshik pot. It's not a melachik pot. It's a kdero chadasha. You put in a spoon, right? Okay, and there was no shishim. Fine. The spoons are bnei yoiman. Yeah. But remember, what did we say about basar and chalav? Hetera, right? So you have the not barnat. You have the tam of the spoon going into the water going into the pot. This is not something that should make this a fleshik pot or a melachik pot. Just leave it alone. Now, the shach says, I do agree on one thing. The second spoon was the fleshik one. Go ahead and use this pot as a fleshik one. Make this pot fleshiks from now on. Do yourself a favor. Since the second spoon was fleshiks. The Taz agrees with that, I think. Even though the Taz goes more along with the Mechaber. and he explains why the mechaber really is so machmir here. It's interesting. You understand what the question is? The question again is, this is a typical example, pretty much, of not barnat. We're talking about not isura. You're talking about hetero. The milk is mutter. It's not mixed in with basar. The basar is mutter. Why should it be a problem with the pot? He says, don't use the pot. You should not use the pot with not basar, not halal. Now, the Ramah says, of course, don't worry. In case you did by mistake, im over ubishu babasar or chalav mutar. You know why? Because, after all, the haben noisin tam, noisin tam. So in other words, even this is of course with the mechaber's agreement. In other words, in the end, the mechaber too will agree. The b'di'ever, it's mutar. Why? Because it's not barnat. Wait a minute, if it's not barnat, why can't I use the lechatchila? So the Ta says, this mechaber is telling us that we don't rely on not barnat lechatchila. That's what he's saying. Lechatchila, no. Yes, not barnat, it works, but not always is it lechatchila. I say not always because there could be some situations where it can be lechatchila too. We'll see later. It's minor differences. So the Taz says, you know why the mechaber is machmir? Yes, the same mechaber who's makel by not barnat, here he's telling us, yeah, but not lechatchila in this particular pot. However, let me tell you a situation where the mechaber would say it's okay. What happens if the pot was an eino ben yoima? Fleishike pot. Fleishike pot, eino ben yoima.
Before we continue, back to the whole case. I don't quite understand it.
Sure.
I put a milk spoon into boiling water.
That's correct.
I remove the milk spoon. Now I put a fleishik spoon in boiling water.
Right. That's correct. Later on. Not the same boiling water. Later on you cook.
Why not?
That's the example given over.
What will be the difference of
Maybe then you have the time of the two of them combining together. It's like putting them at the same time.
But it came from a spoon.
Makes no difference, but it's mixing. It's all mixing at the same time. That would be.
But both of them came from a spoon.
Right.
The water is not neither. The water is neither fleishik nor milk.
Yeah, but we will see that. That's the problem that Tosfos brings down. And later on in the halacha we'll see about washing fleishik and Melicha together.
Okay, that's complicated matters.
It's a little.
Maybe this will explain to us later why we can't wash.
Yeah. It would be different.
Just understand, the spoon has blias of milk.
That's true.
When I put it into the water, it least blias of milk into the water.
Right. What
does the water now contain? Blias of milk? Not barnat? Not, what does it contain?
Blias of milk, not barnat blias.
Not barnat.
Right.
So when I put the fleishik spoon into the same water, it's now releasing fleishik not barnat.
That's correct.
So I have now in the water, milchik not barnat, it's fleishik not barnat.
And when they two meet, they crash.
Why?
It's basar.
Now, why is it any worse?
Because you're combining basar and chalav together. Even
excuse
at
me,
the level of not barnat.
On the level, but when I eat the fish head,
it's different.
With the milk isn't even not barnat. The milk is mamish milk. The fish head has not barnat meat base.
Right.
But the milk is mamish milk.
Yeah, but you're talking about here a bishul. You're being mavashal, basar, and chalav together, possibly.
Why basar and chalav? I didn't put in meat and milk together in there. I put in.
Okay, so that's a different question. I agree. So the Pri Megadah would hold maybe it's a different level of basar b'chalav, but you can't lechatchila mix the two. So the only question.
I thought once it's not barnat, it's not a problem.
No. But not when you have less than shishim at the same time. The example, the Pasha example, therefore, has to be because of that, because of what you're saying.
So what does it
has to be
use a different one?
Because we're concerned now about the pot, not about the water.
And now, what does the din of the pot on the first time around? I put the spoon into the water. The water is boiling.
Right.
Now the water has not barnat. Right. What is the pot now getting? Not barnat or not barnat?
It's a machlekes. We'll see. That's a question of washing dishes together.
Okay.
It's later on. You're right. No, you're right. It's a question.
Because right now it's so simple.
Some say it would be okay.
No, but my question is a different question. Not whether it's okay or not. Okay is the final result.
Right.
Is the pot now absorbing? The pot is absorbing now not barnat or not barnat?
The pot?
When I put the milchik spoon into the boiling water,
right,
is the pot absorbing not barnat or not barnat?
The pot itself,
yes,
is already a 3 generation.
So it's absorbing not
barnat. That's what.
So why can't I cook meat or milk in it when it's
not? That's the shach's question. That's 1 second. That's the shach's question of Mechaber. If anything, thank you for raising it because I didn't remember all these details by heart. But that's exactly one of the details of the shach that says, wait a minute, the mechaber, not only do you have a nat barnat here, you have a nat barnat by the time it gets to the pot. Exactly the way you say it. If anything, he says, even those guys, let me call them guys, they should forgive me, even those shitas who are machmir requiring, by nat barnat, and require 3, remember them?
Yeah, sure.
They would be maskim here too, just like you. Yeah, right? So excellent. Thank you very much for reminding me. Yeah. It's a long shot, but
I wasn't
yeah,
him.
yeah. Fourth, third. We haven't got.
We're at 3 already.
Yes.
That's still the milk is going in. The flake should come out of the pot. Will be a 4th generation.
Yeah, but each one is treated separately, independent of the other. We have the milk coming out of the spoon into the water, and we have flesh coming out of either the spoon or the pot.
He's right. But that's why the spoon wasn't ushered. It's the pot that's the problem. The fleischig spoon that was put into the boiling water subsequently, different water,
right?
The spoon wasn't ushered to be used with fleisch.
That's correct.
The pot is the problem.
Yes.
Because the pot is combining the two nut bar nuts.
Yes, that's
he's
true.
right. With respect to the spoon, what comes out of the pot and goes into the spoon, which is milchig,
right,
is no longer a
That's
problem.
very true too. Yeah. The spoon would not be a problem as much. Case. Yeah, could be. Yeah, because it would be a 4th.
And nobody holds the one.
No. Yeah. Anyway, these are the. Perhaps we should put it all together in a chart or something to analyze the various combinations of how it would work. But it's either 2 or 3 really. Once you get beyond that, you're right. So that's part of the shach's and others' argument on this mechaber. Why are you being machmer? It comes along the Taz and says basically the mechaber is machmer because it does not allow us to rely on a nat barnat lechatchila in this kind of situation. Now, however, you want to see how the mechaber will come to your aid with nat barnat. Take the second example. He says, if you had a fleishik pot which was already used, fleishiks, but it's not a ben yoima, okay? Your wife comes and tells you, oh no, I just used the fleishik pot to make, I don't know, something milchik.
Sonia.
Yeah, but actually, no, she didn't make something milchik, she used a milchik spoon. Because that's it's really this example, it's not milchik now. She used a milchik spoon to make something parv. Now what's the din of the pot? Not the food, the pot. The mechaber says, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Why? Because the ben yoima of the spoon will not disallow me to use this pot in the future for fleishiks. What did we say?
What kind of spoon do we have now? We have a
We have a milk spoon.
and a fleischig pot?
Right.
And a ben yoim.
Yeah. Now listen carefully again. What did we just say now? Our example in Sif Hey is a kedera chadosha. It's a new pot. So the mechaber, basic reason, the way the Taz explains it is, the mechaber says, listen, this is a kedera chadosha. You can't use it for this or for that. It's a chumrah, because you stuck both of them in. Similar chumrah to the Ramaz chumrah later on, that if you cooked rice in a fleishik pot, eat that rice on a fleishik plate. That's a chumrah. Right? Remember that one? You remember that halacha? Yeah. It's so the Taz says this is a similar chumrah. This is a derech hadasha. It was never used for neither. Guess what? Mechaber says since you use both spoons, you cannot use it for either of the two. The fleishiks or the milchik has no more koch. On the contrary, it has blias of both in a sense. Therefore, you can't. You can cook other stuff with it, but not milchiks or fleishik. It's a derech hadasha. Okay. However, the mechaber says, don't forget about nat barnat. It's not gone out the window. If this pot was a fleishik pot, eino ben yoima, and you came with that spoon ben yoima, I'm not going to tell you that the halacha is I can't use that fleishik pot with fleishiks anymore. See, that fleishik pot will remain a fleishik pot. It's an eino ben yoima. Why? Because it's not barnat. That spoon will not destroy the status of this pot. You following? That's the difference. What did we say before? We said before that if im ein hakaf אם יש סמך לבטל הכף הקדיר והתף של מותרים, אבל הכף אוסר בין אם בוסר בין החול, that was one instead. שיפלו מבוסר אפילו בדבר ולשרס. ואם אין סמך, הכל אוסר בהנו, אפילו הקדירו. Right? That's if the two are ben yoima. Whenever you have the two bnei yoiman, you have the problem of basar b'chalav, so everything becomes asur. But if one of them is not a ben yoima, then it's not going to be a problem. Or similar to if you have shishim, either the kaf or the kdeira.
So we're not talking about two now.
No. Just talking about in general. So if one of them is not going to be a ben yomo, you're not going to have a problem. Elamai, with the kaf we said, im ein kaf ben yomo, agder v'tav shel mutor v'kaf osur. Lechatchila ben im baso ben im cholov. What about the other way around? If the gdera is ein ben yomo, and you stick in the kaf that's ben yomo, so the Taz explains that this ben yomo spoon will not undo the status of the spot. You can still use the spot eventually with meat, because of the not bar not situation.
So why shouldn't it be the exact? Even better, it's an yomo pot. I mean, the nut bar nut should go both ways. Just like what the pot is absorbing from the spoon is a nut bar nut meat. What the spoon is absorbing from the pot is a nut bar nut meat. And if it's an eno ben yomo nut bar nut meat, so why should it be us or anything?
Okay, so that leads to another question, which does it make a difference the fact that the spoon is touching the pot or not? Does that make a difference?
If that makes a difference, it should make a difference both ways.
Oh, right. Yeah. So here now, I did not necessarily say right now what the status of the pot would be as far as, can I just go ahead and use it now? All I'm saying is that this ben yomo spoon does not undo the status of this fleishik pot. It remains a fleishik pot. We don't say now that you cannot use this fleishik pot with fleishiks anymore. Understand? Because it's a not, right? Because it's a not banat. But anyway, I still have to look into it. It's a long shach,
okay.
and the Taz back and forth, and we still have to look into it as to what exactly is the chumrah here. But it turns out that according to the Taz, this is a chumrah. It's not a revolutionary din over here. All he's telling us, yes, I agree with not banat, and the not banat would save you in the case of the flesh kippah being eno ben yoimo. But here it's a k'dera chadasha. I don't want you to use it yet for either of the two. Why? Because it has the two. It has this and it has that. It has Melicha and it has flesh. That's why it's a little bit more of a problem in a k'dera chadasha than it is in a k'dera yeshana. In a k'dera yeshana, it would be okay. Why is it okay? Because it's eno ben yoimo. I'm sorry, because it's not by not. So in the end, the Mechaber does agree with not by not. So just to finish up with the Ramah here, it's mutter. Then the second halacha is gdera shebishlu b'yorokos. If you cooked in a pot vegetables or mayim, or water b'tochbo in kaf ben yoimo, inserted a kaf ben yoimo, v'gdera eino bas yoimo. Oh, here it is. This is an example. So you have a gdera that you're cooking vegetables or water, and you inserted a kaf ben yoimo, v'gdera eino bas yoimo, or lehefech. That the gdera is bas yoimo and the spoon is not. Or sheish b'machol shishim, a kol shori, everything would be mutter in the end. No, or if you had shishim, it's the same thing. Let me just see here. What I said before, that the Ramah is the one that says that we're noig to be machmir to eat that food like the kli which is not ben yoimoy. I'm sorry, like the kli that is ben yoimoy. So if the spoon was a ben yoimoy, you mixed it in the rice, eat that rice with whoever is the ben yoimoy. The gender of the okay, or whoever is the ben yoimoy. Because if one of them is not a ben yoimoy, then we're going to use the one that's ben yoimoy. That's because we use a spoon here. My example before was rice in a pot without a spoon.
Right.
Okay. But here there's a very interesting case where you use a spoon too, and there were two different genders. So you use it like the gender of the one that is a ben yoimo. If the spoon was the ben yoimo, and it was a Melicha spoon, put it in the Melicha pot, because it's a ben yoimo. So that's the Ramah. The lesser akli she'eino ben yoimo, it's only a chumrah. Lesser akli she'eino ben yoimo is only a chumrah. So we don't use it. It's not barnat, we said before. It's eino ben yoimo the kli. No, we don't use it lechatchila. Ve'eno elo chumro be'almo ki medina kol shori. And these words, eino chumro, the Taz says that's exactly what's going on in the Bechaber here. Don't make a big fuss here. He's saying, yes, it's an interesting thing that he says don't use it with either one. Yeah, because it's a k'dera chadasha. It's a little different. He's being machmer in such a situation that don't rely on that not by not, even though I always do. But that's only a chumrah. All right, Mitzvah Hashem will go into it a little bit more when we come back. Mitzvah Hashem.